Okay, today's video is all about my ARE Topper shell again. The original shell had this light in the back of it, and I could make it work. I mean, it's the prongs that connect the batteries are all rusted. I'm sure I could fix this if I wanted to, but I don't really want a battery powered light in the back of my truck. So I went online, I got a similarly shaped one. It's a little longer than the original. Looks like it's got plenty more LEDs than the original, so hopefully it'll be a little brighter too. This is a 12-volt light, so it'll run right off of DC power. My plan is, because I was worried if I hooked it directly to the battery that I would forget it and leave it on, and come out and my battery be dead or something. But then I realized it's going to be real easy for me to hook this onto the parking lights, because I'm not going to forget to leave my parking lights on, at least I hope not, because the parking lights, obviously when you set the alarm, you're going to see your parking lights for the truck as you go in for the night or whatever. And if the parking lights are off, then you won't have power to this anyway. So that's my plan. Like I say, I'm going to replace this one with this one. Now, I really appreciate it if you like it and subscribe, and let's get started. The original one mounted up here. The nice thing about the new one is it's actually fairly flat. When I mount this in here, it's going to be way up there, and it's just a simple push button to turn it on and off. I am going to have to drill a hole because this power comes right out the back, so I will need to drill a hole here. And of course, because it's so much longer, I'll have to drill new holes for the mounting as well. Once I get that done, then I'll probably go ahead and drill a couple more holes around the edge here so that this wire isn't just hanging down. Once I drill some holes around the edge, I can go ahead and run wire ties through those holes and tie those wires up tight and get those from dangling. Now, you may have watched my other video. I did purposely make this a 4-prong breakaway connector. 4-prong being as I knew that I was going to eventually, replace that light with a power, a light that I could run off the truck itself and not a battery powered one. This power supply connector from an old power supply, computer power supply, worked perfect for that. And it's worked perfect for me because I often forget when I'm taking this thing on and off that I need to disconnect this. Having it a breakaway connector works perfect for me. I'm going to start off with the 3/16 drill bit. Now the trick to this is I'm going to be drilling through the center as close as I can. But when I get done drilling through this, it's going to leave a sharp edge on the back side. So I got to make sure that I remove that sharp edge or protect the wiring to keep it from being cut by that sharp edge. Always wear safety goggles when drilling, especially when you're drilling above your head like this. Luckily, this looks like aluminum, so aluminum tends to be kind of fairly dull anyway. still want to get rid of any possible sharp edges. On the back side there. Now this comes apart. As you can see, there's a couple little tabs there. So you spread it apart with those tabs. Spread it apart at those tabs. Now you can get to the back side. One thing I do have is, I may go ahead and throw on there, is a little bit of shrink tubing. That'll just help protect it a little bit, because it's going to be vibrating down the road, so if there's anything sharp. So what I'm going to do here is just slide this heat shrink tubing, little piece I cut off, over all the way up and into, and I'm just going to take a lighter and shrink it all up around it. Now, that'll just give it a little added protection. You could put a couple layers on there if you wanted to. I think it's fine, especially since this is aluminum. I feel like I've deburred it, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. So most wire, if you look on it, will say on it somewhere how big it is. If you're not sure, the best thing to do, if it's not written on it anywhere, the best thing to do is go with wire that's bigger than what you're required to have. Again, if you can't find the exact size, and most of the time if you're looking around in the garage like I just did, found a wire that'll work for this application. Just make sure that you go bigger for your wire, not smaller, because smaller will heat up and could fail, or could even worst case scenario, could even start a fire. But again, always go bigger, never go smaller. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to solder this wire onto this wire. But if you just put it, cut the insulation around it without actually going deep enough into the wire, you can pull back that insulation and it'll tear where you cut it. So we're gonna, now you notice this wire, it's stuck together in the middle. I want to keep it that way. So I want to make sure I put the heat shrink tubing on it first. One on one, one on the other. There's a saying in the industry, and it's kind of an oxymoron type saying. When it comes to solder, the bigger the glob, the better the job. Absolutely not true, but it's one of those things that'll really irritate those purists. When you say it. Now the thing about solder is most of it contains lead, so make sure that you're not breathing the smoke, that you're not make sure you're washing your hands before when you get done using it, and cleaning up everything. What you want to do, heat that up. You want to make sure you heat up the actual wire itself, and then push the solder into the wire, and it should just melt right in if the wire is hot enough, and that'll make sure that you get a nice penetration. Looks like these are pre-soldered, but I'm going to solder them again anyway. Fresh solder seems like always works better than my hand's shaking because I'm kind of overusing it because I'm leaning on this bed here. But now you can buy a silver solder that doesn't contain lead. It takes a little more heat to solder it, but it works just as well. Just keep in mind that some of this wire was pre-soldered, and I have no idea what kind of solder that was. Once I get both sides soldered. Now you could twist these together first, or you could do it the way I'm doing it. I kind of just twist them around a little bit. I can do this because it's thin wire. If this were thicker wire, I wouldn't be able to do this. Just enough to kind of hold in place. And heat that solder back up, and it should just melt the two right together. Give it a good blow to make sure it all soldered together. Once it's cooled off enough, you can pull this heat shrink tubing back over it. You don't want to do it while it's hot because the tubing will shrink down on you while you're trying to pull it over. There again, just use your lighter. You can use your soldering iron too. I've done it both ways. Just shrink that down till it fits tight and it's not going to move. Don't burn it, but heat it up pretty good. Do the same thing with the black. Alright, if you get some sharp edges like that, I like to take a pair of little diagonals and trim them up. And of course, if you don't have diagonals, just anything that'll work. Just something that'll take the sharp edge off of there so it doesn't try to poke its way through the heat shrink tubing. Kind of defeat its purpose. There we go. Try and kind of circle it around. Just get it, cover the whole thing, or shrink the whole tube. All right, so now that we've got that heat shrink tubing on there, we can go ahead and pull this through. Shrink tubing's a little stiff, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the red wire through first, and then the black wire. Now, as I pull that through, I just route this line here for a minute. And now I know right where I want it now. I'll go ahead and mount this with some self-drilling screws. Make sure you're not going to hit any of the wiring. One. There's two. This cover should just snap right into place now. All right, so now we got that mounted. Again, I want to go through here and all the way down. I want to drill some small holes that I can get some small wire ties or zip ties or whatever you call them where you live. Zip tie that around so it's not just dangling down in the way. Again, we want to make sure that we're not, catching on the wires as we're drilling through there. Now again, when we drill through these, we want to make sure that we're not leaving a sharp edge that's going to cut our wire. Picking a drill bit bigger than my wire ties, or zip ties, whatever you want to call them. Make sure I'm not as sharp on the back edge of that. Yeah, I'm kind of lucked out that this is aluminum. If it was steel, I think I'd be having a lot more problems with sharp edges. Once again, I'm very careful that I don't cut any wires while I do this. Alright, so we got that all tied up. I'm going to go ahead and use solderless connectors to connect these together. Make sure after you crimp them, you got a good grip. Kind of pull on them. If you don't pull on them, you're never going to know for sure that they crimped onto the wire. Make sure you don't push that insulation too down far in there either. Sometimes that insulation will slip underneath. Yeah, make sure you got a good grip. Now I'm going to follow the same color code. I'm going to put the black on the black, but I'm going to put the yellow on the red since the red and wire are already used for the other side. Pull on them, make sure that they're good and tight. If they come loose, cut them off, and one side comes loose, cut them off and redo it. Make sure they're tight though. Alright, so now I gotta get this routed through there and down through here. I'm hoping I can shove this up, get a hold of it, pull it through, and then I can pull that back. we'll see how it goes. All right, so to get the tail light off on my Tacoma, I'm gonna take off these 2 screws. Once I take those 2 screws loose, this will kind of pop free from the side, pop out. And there you go. You can see right here where I crimped in for the brake light. The other one should be the night light, or the parking light. This is going to be your reverse light, and this is going to be your turn signal. I can just tap right into this wire for the black, so the only one I got to run really is the yellow, or actually the red. All right, so right there we got the parking light on. I just went and turned them on just to verify. And luckily, since I've already figured out that, I mean, I'm on the driver's side tail light. I've already figured out that the white one's the ground, and one of the green's the brake light, the other is the, I don't know if you can see that. So if you got the greens, both of them up, the one on the left side, when you're looking at it, is going to be your brake light, and the one on the right side is going to be your parking light. And of course, the white one is going to be your ground. Now I do have a couple of these taps left. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tap this one. I'm going to tap this one right to that one. And then I'm going to have to run the one wire. I'm going to have to tap it into here for this wire. Now, I will tell you, these taps, they work great as long as they're dry. I've had a lot of problems with them if you put them underneath the truck or somewhere where they're exposed. I've had a lot of problems with having to go back and cut them and resolder them or do whatever I need to do to make them work again. But they do work good if they're in a dry location. And this is up here in this tail light area. It's enough of a dry location that this has been working for me. All right, so I found another piece of wire. Now I gotta try and hopefully get it pushed up through the same hole. All right, so I got that pulled back as far as I can get it. I'm gonna do an old electrician's trick. I'm going to pull this back in here as far as I can. I'm going to tape the old wire onto it, and I'm going to pull it back out. And hopefully I can get it ran through there that way. Put the tape on there. Right on the end. I'm covering it up. I'm going to tape it onto the other wire. I can pull it up through there with it. So actually, I didn't need to tie it onto the other. Well, I tried to do it, but the gap wasn't wide enough. Alright, so I'll connect this one to the yellow one with the solderless connector. Now technically, I'm probably making those a little too long, but to go in these little solderless connectors, but the wire's thin enough that they'll just butt into each other and be fine. If it was thicker wire, I'd have to shorten these up. Again, pull on them, make sure that they're not going to come loose. All right, so this one, again, I'm just going to tie it to this one with these connectors, and you can just snap these right over the top. Make sure they go all the way in. All right. No. All right, the other one you can just slide in. All right. All right. So what I like to try and do with these, get the wires in there, and then go ahead and crimp this down into the wire so it's nice and flat and it's already holding on to the wire. Then snap this into place. And I'm doing this is because both the parking and brake light are sharing the same wire for the ground. Alright, so now you got your black wire hooked up. Your red wire hooked up here, but we got to get your red wire hooked up down here. Because we're going to crimp onto the wire. We're going to stick this one through here. Cut that off first. Snap the wire on this side. Okay. Got it drop down in there. On that side. Got my red wire on this side. Again, I'm going to push this down before I even close it. Make sure I got a good penetration on that insulation on that wire all the way down. Then I'm going to snap this closed all the way down. Now, if all goes well, I should have a working light when I turn on those parking lights again. So let's find out. Alright, so my parking light is on. Parking light has come on. Let's see if my light up here comes on when I turn it on. Uh-oh. Something wrong. Or the light doesn't work, which would really suck. Alright, so I'm going to check the voltage at the connector. See if I got voltage there. Really should have tested the light, made sure it worked before I went through all the trouble of hooking it up. So, right now I should have, oh, what just happened? Something came on up there when I moved the wires. I don't know which wires. I may have a bad connection. There we go. It's actually my plug. I'm going to shut off the lights so I don't short it out. Fuse or blow a fuse. Or now at the hardware store, they sell what they call dielectric grease. It's in the electrical. You'll find it, you know, with all the electrical stuff. And you can put that dielectric grease on these connectors, and that'll help keep them from corroding. Yeah, it seems to be this yellow one right here. And if you have to, you can push in on those little pins inside there. You know, if you got one that's just being really stubborn like I've got right here. If you look inside there, there's little tabs that pop out when you push these pins in. You push them back down, you should be able to pop that out. See these little tabs right here? And I'll pop them back out. But having this out, I can go ahead and just hit it with a little, you know, fine sandpaper or something and really clean that up good. All right, another thing I can do while I got this out, I can verify that it's properly crimped, and it looks like it is. Hit this with a little Alright, so I've bent those tab backs out. Hopefully you can see that. And I cleaned that up. So it's push that back in there. They make pin removal tools for these, and I don't have one. So I'm gonna have to try and come up with something. I need something really thin and long and flat. Alright, so over there looking for something, and I realized a piece of this would probably work pretty good. This is just a piece of plastic off of you know, a package, you know, something, you know, came in a, if I have anything just to show you an example of. Yeah, like these batteries, right? It's plastic. It's just a piece of that. I think if I cut it just the right length, I should be able to roll that up, if I can roll it up without breaking it. And I think that's going to work. So let's roll it. I'm just taking it, I'm just rolling it up as much as I can. You know, you want to get it nice and round so it just fits over that. I'm gonna cut a little bit of that off. Just cut a piece of that off and make it a little thinner. And that's actually kind of what the pin pushers look like, except they're metal. If I can get that around there. That's the right side. I should be able to push those in and pull that out. There you go. See, that's why you watch the Jerry Rigger channel. Because not only am I always doing some stupid, crazy stuff, but you learn stupid things like how to push a pin out of a connector using a piece of plastic that you cut off a battery cover. All right, so now we can go ahead and clean this one up too. Actually, I think I'm going to crimp this a little bit tighter. It looks. Crimp this up a little bit tighter with this. I'm going to go ahead and just crimp this in a little bit. Like I say, I don't want to crimp it in too much because, and then before I push it back in, we'll pop these tabs out so they grab tight when they hopefully those pins are getting good and tight together. That's much tighter. Look at that. That might have been the whole problem. It was just loose. Kind of misshaped a little bit to get it tight, but now I'll just push this right back in there.
And that probably got bent because I forgot to disconnect it when I took the shell off many times.
All right, snap back into place. All right, let's turn it on. Make sure. All right, so the light's on. Hopefully, I don't know if you can get both of those in the picture or not, but I'm wiggling it and it's not going off. So, all right, I think we got a good working deal there. Looks like we're in business. We'll call it good for now. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Now, I did mention earlier that this, the one was for the brake, the other one was for the parking. This is a 2012 Tacoma, so I don't know if all years would be the same. I imagine this body style is probably the same, but you probably want to verify that. Put these screws back in. I am going to tie these wires. Maybe up here, just to keep it from getting in the way of anything. But I'll leave this end loose, so if I do accidentally take off the topper, this will break away and hopefully won't tear up my wiring. Again, these are just plastic, so you don't want to over tighten. Thinking right about there. All right, so there it is. It's dark outside and that thing is bright as can be. Got to admit, I'm really happy with how bright it turned out. One other thing I did mention, or did want to mention, these D-rings, they're made of plastic. They're like $5 a piece to buy them. I've replaced these and they've already started, wearing in. I noticed this is, it's rusty and it's metal, so I'm sure it's going to dig away at it. I thought maybe it needed some lubrication. Oh, crap. But it seems to be working fine. Just a really poor design, I think, using the plastic on here. I thought about welding up a couple of these out of metal. May do that at another date, and maybe another show. And then another thing, I didn't have a key for this when I bought it. I bought it used. They replaced the whole lock set with the new key for me. I know it was under 20 bucks. I think the D-rings and the lock, I think, was like 25 bucks total. And the guy actually installed this key thing for me. It's super simple to do if you have the right key, because all they do is they have a special key. They push that special key in here, they can pull the old lock set out, put the new one back in with that same special key. And it literally takes them about a minute, if that. So if you're one of these guys that are putting off you know, getting your lock, you know, you lost your keys, you want a key for it, and you've just been putting it off because of the expense. They're really cheap.
Now, with the previous camper shell I had, I went to the dealer and they had a bag of keys. They let me look through all the bag of keys, and I actually found one that fit, and they let me have it for free.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Jerry Rigger channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I really need some subscribers here. If you like watching the videos, please subscribe. And thanks for watching. See you on the next one.